today, I've been teaching the last many months. I've been focusing my talks on this text, these teachings from my tradition, Tibetan Buddhism, called Lojong. Lojong, which is mind training. And these instructions are set in 59 like maxims or little verses, little kind of reminders. You could say, like something you put on a sticky and put on your refrigerator. Remember to a reminder, just because the Dharma is so vast, so many sutras and scriptures and teachings. So in Tibet, it was a land of nomads, farmers. So some folks were able to become monks and nuns, join a monastery, and dedicate their whole lives just to practice. A lay practitioner, lay person, didn't really have the time, right? They had to farm, they had to feed the livestock, they had to travel, find shelter, But they were dedicated, they were introduced to the Buddha Dharma, so they wanted to learn and cultivate. So these teachings were put together by Atisha, this Indian master who traveled to Tibet, and this Tibetan, Chikawa Yeshe, he compiled them into the 7 points of mind training. They call it these 7 points. And in those 7 points, there's 59 little verses, slogans they call them sometimes, 59 slogans to kind of like help us just to remember, the Dharma. But really also to remember to cultivate bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, bodhi is awake, citta is mind or heart mind. So an awakened heart mind, an awakened heart, an open mind, bodhicitta. So it's to cultivate bodhicitta, and also to these instructions are really to reverse the habit of self-cherishing. Me first. What about me? What's in it for me? So it's reversing that with these instructions and these reminders and this advice and these little pithy slogans. So we're on the 6th point right now, going through the verses there. And the 6th point of mind training focuses on our commitments, our commitments to mind training, We've already gone through 5 points and like 29 slogans. So by this point, it's just like now our commitments. It's like put it into action. Are we putting it into action? Are we walking the talk, Or are we just, as I like to say, just collecting recipes and putting them up in our little book, but never preparing the meal and eating it and then getting rid of it, So at this point here, we're talking about like these verses, these slogans are kind of like checking in on our commitment, what we're doing. Are we committed? Are we committed on this path, on training our mind? So we're on the 30th slogan, and number 30, again talking about commitments, is the slogan is, "Don't be so predictable," is the slogan. And I'll read here from this Buddhist teacher, Judith Life, who was a student of Trungpa Rinpoche, if you're familiar with Trungpa Rinpoche. And she says, "When we work with mind training and the development of bodhicitta, we are interrupting our usual way of going about business. We find that many of our actions are programmed and extremely predictable. And we notice that in other people as well. This is why it's so easy to push each other's buttons. It's why it's so easy to manipulate and to be manipulated." And then she says, "If we do not make an effort to do otherwise, if we do not pay attention, then much of what we do will be in the form of automatic reactions. We can see this whole process as it is happening, although often we do not. We might recognize it in the sinking feeling of 'here I go again.' We might see it coming, but our reaction is so fast that we can't stop ourselves. So we're like on autopilot, We're on autopilot. And, sometimes we think that's good, We have cars that you just put them on autopilot, right? Let them cruise control, But autopilot here meaning, that's what the don't be so predictable. How we react. Our habit is reactivity. We react, If we're praised, we like, we want more, Or we might even want to do the same for the other person. If somebody does something good for us, and then, somebody buys us dinner, and then we want to buy them dinner, So that predictability of that, it's not spontaneous. It's even to the point where, like, we want to, this has happened to me, where you're fighting over the check, right, with a friend. No, let me get it. No, let me get it. I got it last, you got it last, and let me get it, So there's like some tension there. So it's not spontaneous. It's like the predictability of our reactivity, And the same thing with when somebody disparages us, right? Our predictability, what's our autopilot, our auto mode? Resentment, right? Somebody hurts us, revenge, right? We see that happening right now in the world, right? This cycle, this predictability, this autopilot. So here, the instruction is don't be so predictable. How do we do that? Awareness, right? What are we doing in our meditation practice? Mindfulness and awareness. We're noticing. So noticing all the details, seeing our reactivity, seeing our predictability, our habits, Even when we're doing something good. Why are you doing that? Oh, because they bought me dinner, so I have to do this. It's like I have to do this. It's not even like it's not genuine, right? That predictability. So here, the instruction is, don't be so predictable. And she says, this kind of predictability is fueled by the self-centered undercurrent of fascination with our own concerns and disinterest in others, except to the extent that they either threaten or feed our own desires. When someone does us harm, we hang on to our grudge about that for a very long time. But when someone helps us, we take it for granted and soon forget it. Right? So she says we don't have to be so programmed and predictable. So how do we do that? Awareness. Awareness. Notice. That's taking the meditation practice off of the cushion. And when we're sitting in meditation, 30 minutes, good posture, mindfulness and awareness. Notice the thoughts. If we come distracted, too much, come to the breath, ground, this presence. So we take this off the cushion, the same awareness, the same curious attention, noticing when we are being predictable, when we're in that mode of, especially like when somebody harms us, right? That reactivity. I'll get them, And she says, for a practice, she says, when you feel threatened, don't get defensive. Pause and then react. When you are praised, don't just slap it up. Pause and then react. What do you notice? Explore the contrast between using experience to further your own agenda and seeing it from a broader perspective. To further our own agenda, Again, that's the self. What's in it for me? What about me? So this practice, this instruction, don't be so predictable. It's an invitation to dismantle that autopilot. With gentleness and precision, right? If we notice that she says, oh, here I go again, we don't have to be hard on ourselves and judge ourselves and, I'm a bad practitioner. No, we just notice, oh, what a wonderful opportunity. Look at that. I did it again, Just notice. And from here forward, How do we proceed? You know? So that's, don't be so predictable, the slogan. And then I also brought Pema Chodron. Are you familiar with Pema Chodron? Yeah? She has a few books on Lojong, mind training. And she has these cards with little pithy instructions on the back. So here for hers, don't be so predictable. She says, do not hold a grudge against those who have done you wrong. So, very pithy, easy. Don't hold a grudge. Yes?
Predictable doesn't seem to be the precisely right thing in describing this. I have a feeling there's something important being talked about here. But in predictable, if you're either predictable or you're random. And there isn't much room in between unless you have some kind of a randomization program or thing to pick one of a number of outcomes. So I don't really get predictable. Because random seems to be the only other thing that you can be. Yeah.
There's different, there's, I should have brought them, but there's different translations. Like this is Trungpa Rinpoche's translation. He translated that slogan as "Don't be so predictable." I'm trying to think of. I was just reading them today. I should have brought them, but different translations of that. But it's really speaking about just as I was mentioning, it says just the predictability of like our auto mode. How we behave. Yes.
When you say predictable, like for me personally, I think it's just like patterns and behaviors that have just kind of been how you respond, especially if it's
or react.
Emotionally charged, whether, like you said, it can be on the spectrum of it feeling good or feeling the total opposite.
Right.
In mode. And it's so, it's the same practice, right, about breath and how much, like, give yourself like 3 seconds, 10 seconds before maybe saying something or doing something, and it just, like you said, it just like, okay, it opens it up again, right? But I think it's more about like patterns and behaviors that are attached to you or that are particular to you.
Yeah. Oh, we see somebody, they're so predictable. We know that's their MO, that's...
Don't be so stuck in your rut, don't do the same thing all the time, watch out for that.
Yeah, you could say it that way,
I'm thinking more along that lines, but more like a slave to your limbic system. Like this is your pattern as a human.
Mm-hmm.
Your survival instincts, wanting to do essentially what's easiest, but that's the predictability.
Yeah.
Of the biology of the human, where by getting away from that, you are being aware and open to the wisdom and ethics and possibly other choices.
Yeah, exactly. The here I go again, it's just like, we know that. It's about really us, just knowing ourselves and just being the primary witness, knowing how our mind works, knowing our patterns, knowing our habits, or that predictability. Don't be so predictable. It's like, like looking in the mirror into ourselves and just saying, don't be so predictable, It's really that, it's like not somebody telling us don't be so predictable, it's us telling ourselves don't be so predictable, And how do you notice that? Awareness. The awareness of recognizing. And pausing, and making another choice, a different choice, Instead of autopilot, the auto mode, yeah. Thank you. And thank you, William. So then the next one is don't malign others. And she says here, when we malign someone, our intention is to cause harm. Our words are spiteful and ill-spirited. There's a saying that sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. But in fact, words do have power, and they certainly can hurt. So she says, in working with the slogans, we are working not only with our actions, but with what is behind them. For instance, when we say something, we should ask ourselves, why are we saying it, and for what purpose? Will what we say help the situation or not? Are we trying to connect with someone or get rid of them? Are we trying to help them or to destroy them? Or maybe we are talking just to talk, to fill the space because we are uneasy with the silence. You know? So that's, again, just an invitation for ourselves to be honest with ourselves. You know, and you know, in retreat, we have silent retreats. You know, some of you were at our retreat that we recently had. This is a reason why we practice. We call it noble silence. You know, just to really, you know, be aware of our kind of like we want to say something. You know, we're uncomfortable with not speaking. You know, so just. That has a profound effect, you know. And that helps us to develop this I don't know if restraint is a good word, but as she says, you know, kind of just noticing, being aware of what we're going to say. Is it going to hurt? Is it helpful, beneficial, or does it cause harm, you know? Our predictability, our auto mode, is to just say it, right? You know? William called me a jerk, so you're a jerk, right? Just kidding. But see, that's the reactivity, right? But with this stillness, which we cultivate during meditation or formal practice, to take off the cushion. Somebody's screaming at us, calling us a name, we're able to hold space for that. Be aware of, you know, of reactivity and response. You know, responding with this. That's bodhicitta, as we're talking earlier. That's an open heart, an open mind. You know, it doesn't mean we stay there if somebody's just totally abusing us. We're not practicing to be doormats. We're practicing awareness, cultivating awareness and mindfulness. So if the situation needs for us to step back, step away, that's a response, you know. The response is to just listen while this person chews us out, and then, I'm sorry, did I say something to offend you? You know, but we don't, right? We just like, oh yeah, well, screw you too, you know. That's the predictability. Don't be so predictable. That's the response, the auto response, the reaction. But what if we dismantle that, you know? And pause, take it in, and respond. I don't know if that's happened to you. I've experienced that. Just pause, listen while I'm getting chewed out, and then inquired, did I say something, you know? And then they tell me, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't, you know. I'm sorry that, you know, that hurt you. And then I see the person just kind of like get diffuse, you know. But if we're going back and forth, then it just keeps going. And then we're predictable. The predictability, the autopilot. So she says, her tip, her practice, she says, pay attention in your speech and to how you talk about, and to pay attention to your speech and to how you talk about and to other people. What is the difference between speaking critically and using speech to harm or destroy? You know? So that's interesting, speaking critically. I mean, we can respond. We can say, hey, your behavior, you know, maybe you should check that, you know. You're hurting me or you're hurting someone, you know. Doesn't mean to just, you know. But noticing that, what is the difference between speaking critically, you know, you want to be a benefit. And sometimes that might take a little firm, tough love, right? Or are we using speech to harm and destroy, you know? I have a teenager at home, 15. I don't know if any of you have teenagers, but quite the experience. And I remember my fiance and I have been living together for a few years, and with her teenager, you know, her son. And I remember when I would talk with him, and if he would misbehave or do something that, you know, that I needed to say something, I was very mindful and aware not to, to harm with speech, and I remember just kind of one time just saying, you're not a jerk, so don't act like a jerk. Rather than saying like, quit being a jerk, It was like, I go, that was interesting how that came out, But I was really just like, what's the best? I want to be beneficial. That was my motivation. So, but I still needed to be critical, to say something that, I said, you're not a jerk, so don't act like a jerk, That's the pause, that's the response, By auto mode for me, predictability would have been like, hey, quit being a jerk, Do what your mother says, So it's been great for me, like being with a teenager. Good practice. He's my guru. So yeah. What is the difference between speaking critically and using speech to harm or destroy? To be mindful and aware of that. Our speech, Don't be so predictable as working with our mind, our states of mind, predictability. Here it's like working with speech. Don't malign others. And then the next slogan here is, don't wait in ambush. Don't wait in ambush. And she says, this slogan is about scheming mind, the mind that never forgets a slight or an insult. Instead, it keeps eating away at us, sometimes for years and even decades. This unforgiving attitude can cause us to cut ourselves off from long-term friends or relatives. It can become so rigid and fixed that even on our deathbed, we refuse to let it go. Many people carry such grudges for life. I think we can relate with that, yeah? Experience that personally, or we know someone, right? Don't wait in ambush. So waiting in ambush is, this, I'll get them. What's that? There's a term, something like revenge is best served cold or something like that, or warm. You guys heard that? I saw some mafia movie and that's what they were talking about. He was waiting like for the right time to whack some guy or something like that. So revenge is best served cold or something like that. So not right away. What? Revenge? Best served cold, yeah. Don't wait in that means waiting in ambush, Not getting right away, but I'll get you. I'll get them,
I also say revenge is a form of nostalgia.
Nostalgia, really? Wow.
You want to get back to it.
Yeah. We don't even realize, but we're keeping that fire going, right? We're throwing wood into that fire. So yeah, don't wait in ambush. And that, again, that's for us to be honest with ourselves and to see, And it could be very, somebody harms us and we want to get them back at some point. We wait in ambush. I've noticed it even like, work with friends, with somebody plays a practical joke on me or something like that. I'm like, all right, I'm going to get them. And I'm like, hey, I'm waiting in ambush. So yeah, it's like, well, you mean you can't do that? I go, you can, I guess, play around, but it's good to just look at that habit. If we do that all the time, it's a habit. So at some point, it's going to be a harmful habit. We're going to wait in ambush to really hurt someone, because they hurt us. So yeah, this is for us to kind of really just, that's our commitment in mind training, turning our mind, changing our mind. Don't wait in ambush. She says, it's easy to get caught up in a cycle where we dwell on the many insults we have endured. We stew about them and how unfair and undeserved they are. We dwell on that and let it fester, and slowly we build our case for ambush. We lay out our plans and wait, ready to pounce, but we have let the insult take us over, and by doing so, we have become a slave to the action of others. Those remembered insults we hold on to so tightly have taken over our mind. By working with this slogan, we can free ourselves from that unhealthy pattern. So don't wait at ambush, you know. It's not a good feeling, too, right? Just to have that revenge and I'll get them, you know. Or if it is a good feeling, it's mistaken, you know. It's ignorance, based in ignorance, and not being aligned with reality, not seeing the nature of reality. That it's changing, it's impermanent. This grudge we're holding on to for, you know, till our deathbed, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. It's our own grasping that, you know, that's why I said, like during meditation, let the mind be agitated. Let it do its thing, you know. They say thoughts are not the problem. It's the holding that's the problem, the grasping. That's what causes the suffering. Thoughts are just like clouds, you know. But holding on to it, you know. It's like those cartoons when the guy's walking around like a dark cloud over his head. Everything's sunny, but this one guy's just got a thunder, you know, storm just above him. That's how we can be. That's how we behave sometimes. It's our holding on to it, you know. It could be like a thundercloud and like a string, like a balloon. It's like, let go. What do I do? Let go, you know. There's a Gampopa teacher in my tradition who said, if you're familiar with the terms samsara and nirvana, you know, nirvana is like, right, this kind of this attainment of nirvana with in Buddhism, you know, reaches a state of nirvana, and samsara is the wheel of existence, this suffering, you know. And this teacher said the only difference between samsara and nirvana is this. You know, samsara, nirvana. Grasping and letting go. There's no place. There's not a nirvana. There's not a heaven. There's not a hell. You could say hell, heaven. Hell, heaven. You know? That grasping mind. You know? And that bodhicitta. Open up. Open your mind. Open your heart. Naturally, you know. You know, we don't have to say like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to have an open mind and an open heart. At first we might work with it like that, but we have to really just practice that. And that happens when somebody's in our face, berating us. What do I do? What do we do? You know? And she says, for her practice tip, in the present, notice your response when somebody insults you. What is the physical sensation and what thoughts arise in your mind? Looking back, do a grudge survey. How many grudges have you been carrying with you and for how long? How does it feel to carry a grudge, and how does it feel when the grudge softens or dissolves, or you can consciously let go? Let go. So if you do feel that, you know, just allow, hold the space for that state of mind. Just, for me, the important part is to the attention on my state of mind, not the perceived external. You know, it's what is this my state of mind right now? You know, and from that, recognize, see how you feel physically. You know? And if you're committed to mind training your mind, changing your mind, and you let go. You open up. So those are the 3 slogans for today. Don't be so predictable. Don't malign others. And don't wait in ambush. See if you can, throughout the week, see if you can remember that. Don't be so predictable, you know. Somebody cuts you off, hey, well, interesting, there I go again, you know. And just like, let them in, you know.